Oh boy, lots of different Mando-verse updates in this one, my friends, and I want to begin with a new trailer for the Mandalorian and Grogu. In the latest TV spot, they promised that one mission, the mission which Djarin is going to go on, is going to change the galaxy. Considering Jon Favreau admitted this film is going to be quite low stake, fans are a bit skeptical about this. Is this hyperbole? A marketing stunt to sell more tickets? Or is it legit? Are they hiding something bigger in this film that we don't know about? We've also got a new look at one of the Imperial Remnant Warlords, someone who never made it beyond Lieutenant, and sadly, according to Hasbro The Black Series, he wasn't given a name. Well, I say, if Johnny Coin's character is called Janu Coin, then they should have followed the same naming pattern for this guy, who's being played by Hemki Madera. I do find it quite awesome though that the ice planet mouse droids are called polar mouse droids. But where are my manners? Hello there my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. It is I coming at you once again, your friend and your favourite galactic hostess, Star Wars Meg. And as you've probably already guessed, today we're talking about one of my favourite all-time Star Wars characters, Boba Fett. And if you've been watching my channel since the start, every few months we do have a big update on what's going on with Temuera Morrison and if the character is going to make a return at some point. And the last 2 or 3 videos have not been very positive. Tem himself has been saying since Book of Boba Fett came to an end that he thinks his character's been shelved. He does still vocal cameo occasionally as clones, but when it comes to the return of the Daimyo of Tatooine, his future is very much uncertain. But just like that jar of peaches on the shelf at your nan's house, when he does come back, he's going to be sweeter than ever before. And the real tragedy of Tem being wasted and not being asked to come back, and the same applies to Ming-Na Wen as Fennec Shand, is that these are people who are passionate about Star Wars, who love their characters, and who will never be as ready as they are today. And so the reason that Boba Fett and Temuera Morrison are relevant to today's video is that following Gina Carano's latest comments that Jon Favreau and Filoni have spoken to her about maybe coming back, fans have been responding with the question of, well, if Cara Dune is going to make a return, why can't they bring back Boba Fett? Why in the world are they sidelining the most iconic bounty hunter in the entire franchise? And I wanted to kind of do a deep dive into this question and give you the reason which I guess a lot of people are too afraid to admit, but it's one which I think is the truth. There's a big difference between what's going on with Cara Dune and the situation with Boba Fett. Let me break it down. It seems that based on what Gina Carano said, Jon and Dave know where to go next with Cara Dune. They know where she fits in, and they know how to bring her back, even after the line in Season 3, where Grief Karga explains that she was recruited by Special Forces. But with Boba Fett, a household name, someone I have much more of a connection with, the truth, and it's a truth which no one wants to admit, is Lucasfilm just doesn't know what to do with him. The reason they called Tem up and told him he's on the shelf is they just don't know how to bring him back. And one of the main reasons is the backlash after the Book of Boba Fett. And the sad thing about that is the show had its flaws, but it had potential. A second season, and I've always said this, would have really straightened out some of the issues from the first. And I kind of liked where the story was headed, especially now that Boba has his allies, Chrysanthemum, Fennec Shand, the mods, even Djarin. There is so much potential for where the story goes next, because by time Chapter 7 comes to an end, the Battle of Mos Pelgo is done, Boba is now settled in, the Hutts went back to Nal Hutta, and you could have a situation that connects to the Mando movie, and word of Boba's survival post-Episode 6 spreads to other syndicates, and it gets these characters off-world and engaging in the Filoni-verse's wider picture. It is such a waste to leave Tem on the shelf. And a part of me hopes that he's being misleading, and when we sit down on May 22nd in the cinema, he does make an appearance. That would be absolutely amazing, but I wouldn't hold my breath. But I think the truth of this entire situation is Lucasfilm just doesn't know what to do with him. And a theory put forward by thedirect.com is that with The Mandalorian and Grogu coming out, with Din Djarin taking a huge step from the small screen on Disney Plus to the big screen, in a very subtle but obvious way, Lucasfilm is trying to solidify that Din is Boba's replacement as the most popular and iconic Mando in the franchise. I don't know if I'd go that far, to be honest, because they are still using Boba in some of the new comics. For instance, he appears in the new Echoes of the Empire issue, where Boba faces Luke just after the Battle of Hoth. But when it comes to the question of post-Book of Boba Fett, bringing Boba back to our screens adjacent to Mando, they really do seem stumped. But we do actually have some new comments from Dave Filoni in the new issue of Empire magazine. They say, ever since The Mandalorian was first announced, similarities between the two helmeted heroes have been obvious. and it was always in the cards for Favreau and Filoni to bring Boba Fett into it. And in his new comments, Dave Filoni talks about the Mandalorian and Grogu from the perspective of an original trilogy fan, saying, quote, "Did you ever think watching The Empire Strikes Back, we would see a Boba Fett Yoda team up, where Boba Fett is like Yoda's dad? No, but here it is, and it turns out it's a wonderful delight. And look, the reason The Mandalorian works isn't because it looks like Boba Fett and Grogu's the same species as Yoda, it's because of the lone wolf and cub archetype. The magic is in the storytelling, and the first 2 seasons perfected that trope to a T. But going back to Tem, Boba Fett is in the background now, and arguably one of the biggest mistakes in the book of Boba Fett was the pivot back to The Mandalorian. The first 4 episodes were all Boba. They were a mixture of Boba settling down on Tatooine, as well as flashbacks to his days with the Tusken Raiders after he escaped the Sarlacc pit. And it was building a pretty strong foundation. Now in the story itself, it is true that Boba and Fennec needed Din Djarin's help, but the show for 2 episodes then became The Mandalorian Season 2.5. We had Ahsoka, Luke's Academy, Din reuniting with Grogu way too soon, and it took away from Boba Fett, and inadvertently hurt the flagship show. Excitement and anticipation for The Mandalorian has never been the same since. Even if I do enjoy the Mando episodes of Boba Fett, that series was not the right place for it, and as a result, I feel like every character suffered. The way fans saw The Mandalorian's 3rd season and beyond, everything was kind of thrown off. And so what I think they should have done is Mando Season 1, Mando Season 2, a Boba Fett show all for himself, and then eventually the Mando movie. So the last time we saw these characters was Grogu going off with Luke. Imagine the hype. Imagine the anticipation. Because then you can do all of the fan service stuff, Luke's Academy, Din on his own for a bit, all on the big screen. Now that would be a movie with a massive box office. But now so much of the mystique is gone, so many big questions have been prematurely answered, and now we're left with a movie that is supposed to be really fun, and I'm looking forward to it, but doesn't have the pull or the canon weight that a post-Mando Season 2 movie would have had. But I hope Temuera Morrison is right, and that Lucasfilm does reopen the jar at some point. But the weirdest thing is that The Mandalorian and Grogu does have other Book of Boba Fett connections. And speaking of this, my friends, we have a new reveal for the movie which I do find a little bit odd. So, we're going to Nal Hutta. This is confirmed, and Star Wars fans were hoping that, as a result, we would also see the Smuggler's Moon, Nar Shaddaa. And many of us assumed that this was going to be this location, but it turns out it's a new planet called Shikari, which is based on Prohibition-era Chicago. And this is kind of disappointing. I understand the need to create new planets and show us new locations, but considering Jon Favreau spoke about Clone Wars connections, expanded universe connections with the Hutts, he even spoke about comics, I was hoping this would be Nar Shaddaa. It sure looks like it, but no. It's Shikari, which when I first read it, I thought it said Shakira. I guess Rotter's hips don't lie. Alright, that was an awful joke. But yeah, there you go, that's some new information, and this is the planet where we're going to see the Ardenian played by Martin Scorsese. Are you hoping to see Boba Fett either in this movie or later on? Do you think Book of Boba Fett deserves another season? Share your thoughts in the comments down below.